never look ahead. I said that last night on the live show. Never look ahead to the next opponent until your series is won. And this game is the exact reason why. The Canadiens had a chance to close the door at home. They had the Bell Center behind them. They had the series right in the palm of their hand, and instead, they blew chunks. Buffalo punched first, Buffalo punched harder, and now the Canadiens have to go and win a Game 7 in Buffalo. It's not time to panic, but it's time for the Canadiens to show some damn urgency in this series. So now let's talk some disappointing playoff puck. You know how you spell embarrassment? Buffalo 8, Montreal 3 in Game 6. The series is tied. And the Canadiens are going back into a Game 7 they absolutely could have avoided. That's the uncomfortable truth tonight. Not because the Sabres are not good. They are good. They're big. They're fast. They forecheck like they're trying to cave in the walls. But the game wasn't just about Buffalo being desperate. The game was about the Canadiens not matching the desperation for long enough. Not early enough, not consistently enough. And in a closeout game at home, with a chance to move on, that can't happen. That has to change. That's the real adjustment point for the Canadiens. And yes, the chance to get to the conference final is still there. But why do they always have to take it to the very limit? The Canadiens aren't finished, though, by any stretch. They're not broken. They're not suddenly a bad team because one game got away from them. But this is a hard lesson for them to swallow tonight. They had a 3-1 lead. They just couldn't hold on to it at all. You don't win the next round in your head. You don't plan for Carolina. You don't talk about the Eastern Conference Final. That's what we did on this show, or at least some of you did in the chat, and I tried to shut it down. What you do if you're the Canadiens is you win the shift right in front of you. You win the wall battle in front of you. You win the first minute in front of you. And the Canadiens didn't do that at all. And now, you have one game to prove what you learned. The defining problem tonight in Montreal was simple. Buffalo dictated the terms again. They came out with an overpowering forecheck. They got on top of the Canadiens' defense. They forced hurried touches. They forced panic exits. They forced soft rims, blind reverses, and rush decisions. And before the Canadiens could even settle right into the game, well, Rasmus Dahlin scored 32 seconds in to make it 1-0 in the first period. That's another terrible start for Montreal. And it's worse because it's not an isolated incident anymore. It's a second straight game where Montreal just wasn't ready to start. You can survive that once. You can survive that if your goalie, steals you minutes, and you can survive that if your power play bails you out, but you can't make it a habit. Not in the second round, not against a team this fast, and not in a Game 6 closeout game. You certainly can't do it in Game 7 that's coming up. And here's the part that makes the night so frustrating. The Canadiens did respond. They actually had the game right in the palm of their hands. They got 3 goals in their first 3 shots. They chased Alex Lyon. The building exploded. Arbor Xhekaj got his first of the year, and everybody was going crazy. It should have been the moment where the Canadiens grabbed the series by the throat, but instead, they let the game drift. They let the Sabres reset. They let Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen come in and calm the temperature down. And from there, where was the urgency? 10 shots in the second period, 7 in the third. Are you kidding me? That's not closeout hockey. That's not enough pressure or hunger. When the other team is playing to save its season, you can't answer with stretches of passive hockey. You have to make them defend, put pucks behind them, have to force their D to turn, and you have to force their goaltenders to work. You did that on your first 3 shots, and then you let it go. Montreal didn't do enough of that. And the Sabres, to their credit, they just kept on coming. The forecheck kept arriving. The power play, well, it went 4 for 6. So it found itself. The Sabres attacked the weak points on the Canadiens' defense all game long. And once the game started to slide, there was no way for the Canadiens to stop it. That's the biggest problem. And that's also a big opportunity for them because the fix isn't something that's mysterious. Start on time, manage the puck better, win the first layer of pressure, and get to the inside. Make the Buffalo Sabres defend instead of letting them, hunt. That's the key here. And that's all Buffalo did in this game. They kept on hunting. For the Canadiens, they kept on playing the victim. Now, time for us to get to the game highlights, because there's a lot of them. And as I said, It started early in the first period when Rasmus Dahlin made a sweet little move in tight, put a puck off the stick of Alex Carrier, who deflected it up over the shoulder of Dobes to make it 1-0. Here it is. Dahlin gets the puck, gets it around Slafkovsky, who slides right by him. That's another horrible move, and we'll talk about Slafkovsky later. And then Carrier puts a stick down. The backhand goes off his stick over the shoulder of Dobes, and it's suddenly 1-0 early in the first period again. But the Canadiens got an answer. At a minute 40, the building exploded. Arbor Xhekaj, much maligned, low minute getter, finally gets his first playoff goal of the season. Right off the draw, fires one at the net. A little bit of a fluttering puck, but it gets by Lyon's glove, actually deflected off the glove, and went in to make it 1-1. And the crowd was back into it again. Suddenly, everything seemed to be fine. At 8:12 of the first period, Canadiens on the power play, Ivan Demidov gets his second of the playoffs on another sweet feed from Lane Hudson, one right into his wheelhouse, bang from the knee, and he puts it home to make it 2-1 Montreal, and they've got the lead, and the building is a-hopping. It looks like everything's copacetic. Well, it continues that way. This time, though, the Canadiens were shorthanded. And Jake Evans grabs the puck along the half wall on the far side, skates it up ice. He's got Anderson with him. He uses Anderson as a decoy, comes in, fires it past Lyon. 3 goals on 3 shots. Here it is again. Watch it as it gets through Lyon's glove and pad. And that made it 3-1 Montreal. And Alex Lyon was done for the night. In comes Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. What did the Canadiens do? The minute Pekka Luukkonen came in, they got 2 shots on goal for the rest of the damn period. 2. Not nearly good enough. And they gave up a power play goal to Jason Zucker at the 13:56 mark of the period. Zucker gets the puck in front. He puts it past Dobes. Anderson losing position, but wasn't really his to lose. Again, it's one of those things where Alex Carrier is just too soft on the coverage on that side. Gave way too much time to Benson, who put it out in, it was Norris, who put it out in front to Zucker, and he put it past Dobes, Anderson reaching in. I'm not going to blame Anderson so much because he was the strong side winger. It's more along the lines of Carrier not following his man and no defenseman being there to be able to cover. The defenseman should have been Matheson. Just saying. So at the end of the first period, it's 3-2. The Canadiens are still in good shape, although they did get outshot. 11-5 in the first period. Flip over to the second period. And again, the Canadiens not ready to start. Zach Benson, the pest of all pests, scores a minute into the period as the shot comes in and gets through Dobes and goes right to him on his backhand. Dobes, no idea where this puck is as it goes in between his pads. And Benson just tucks it inside the far post to make it a tie hockey game. 3-3. Eerily similar to what was going on in Buffalo in Game 5. Well, the eerily similar stuff continues as Jack Quinn scores his first on the power play to make it 4-3 Sabres, giving him the lead for good. This essentially was the game-winning goal. And Dobes just muffs this, misses it completely with his glove. Just over the pad, under his glove, it's 4-3. That's one he should have had. Then, a couple of minutes later, it's Konsta Helenius getting his second goal in as many games for the Sabres as Caden Gooley gets beat along the boards by Zucker. And then the pass across, nothing Dobes can do on that one as Helenius puts it home. The only problem, as you can see right there, was that Veleno had taken an elbow to the face that wasn't called, and that made it 5-3 for the Sabres. That's how it ended after 2, but it continued in the third. Another power play goal by Jack Quinn at 9:58 of the third period. Here it is, one-timer from the far side, and it gets by Dobes to make it 6-3 for the Sabres. And it chases Dobes from the net. In comes Jacob Fowler. Well, the Canadiens pull Fowler, and Tage Thompson scores into an empty net to make it 7-3 for the Sabres. A long-distance empty netter, by the way, as it goes all the way down the ice. There it is. That made it 7-3. And to make it worse, The Sabres got another power play late in the hockey game, and Zach Metsa scores on the power play, his first of the playoffs, to make it 8-3. And that goal goes in off the stick of Matheson through the wickets of Jacob Fowler. Off the shaft of the stick, bounces in between his pads, and that's the end of the night. 8-3, your final score. An embarrassment for the Montreal Canadiens, to say the least. Now it's time for us to get to my game report, and I got a lot to talk about because the game report is not going to be simple tonight. I was trying to get everything to work, but before we talk about individual players in the game report, something has to be said very clearly. This game wasn't lost because of a single player. The Canadiens lost this game because their team cracked in the areas that usually give them a chance to win. They lost the face-off battle for the first time in the series. The Sabres were above 60%. That's the first time in the playoffs the Canadiens have been that bad in the circle, okay? They also allowed the power play for the Sabres to go 4 for 6 in this hockey game. A power play that looked like complete shit at the end of the season in the last series against the Buffalo Sabres suddenly has come alive. Whose fault is that? We'll talk about that in a bit. But the Canadian spacing just definitely wasn't clean. Their exits, dirty as hell, not firm. Puck support arrived late. Their urgency came in flashes instead of waves. And in playoff hockey, flashes don't close out a series at all. Waves do. Montreal needed to play through contact tonight. They needed 5-man exits, short passes, speed underneath the puck. Instead, way too often, it looked like a team was waiting for the next clean play to suddenly appear. And Buffalo, well, clean plays against them don't appear. You have to create them, absorb the first hit, make the second play, move the puck before the forechecker arrives, not after he's already on your hands. You hear that, Mr. Slavkovsky? That's where Buffalo made this game totally uncomfortable for the Canadiens. They made Montreal's defense retrieve under pressure. They made the first pass difficult. They forced the Canadiens into those little half decisions, and those half decisions are killers. Puck chipped too softly, that stupid freaking flip that doesn't work under pressure, a pass thrown into somebody's feet, a winger leaving a little bit too early, defensemen turning their back into trouble. How many times we saw that along the boards? That's how the game gets away from you. And the frustrating thing is that the Canadiens had the proof early that Buffalo could be hurt. 3 goals on 3 shots. You don't do that in a closeout game and not smell blood. You should be starting to roll your lines at that point. Throw them over the boards like you're trying to end the series right then and there. But after that, it just looks like the Canadiens stopped working. They stopped layering pressure. They stopped making Buffalo pay. And that's the part that Marty St. Louis is going to have to hammer home. The response can't be a single push. It has to be your identity. When you get 3 on 3 shots, it's not a reason to exhale. It's a reason to play that much harder. It's a reason to make Luukkonen enter a game that's already a dumpster fire for the Sabres. Instead, Luukkonen came in and the Canadiens handed him a fire extinguisher. They let the Sabres breathe. And once Luukkonen got to breathe, the entire team got to breathe. And that's the turning point of this game from a Canadiens perspective. Not just a single goal, not just one mistake, but the turning point was the moment the Canadiens had a chance to make the game frantic for the Buffalo Sabres and instead allowed it to stabilize. That is something that just can't happen in Game 7. The correction has to be direct. Shorter exits, harder rims, more support below the puck, more bodies through the middle, more shots from the inside, and above all else, the first period has to look like you give a shit. You can't go into the game looking like the season's not on the line because now it is. But that's not panic. It's just the reality. And the belief statement has to be this. The Canadiens have already shown in this series and the one versus Tampa that when they get their pace going and when they get to attack in layers, they can force the opposition to defend instead of chase. And they beat the team at that point. That's their winning formula. It's right there. But they have to make sure that they choose that formula from the very drop of the puck. Now let's move away from the team picture and take a look at the players for a minute. Because in a game 6 like this, the big names don't get to hide behind the chaos. The series is tied now. Game 7 is coming. And the Canadiens need its most important players to give them their cleanest, hardest, smartest hockey of this entire season. First, you got to look at the top line because it's become a problem. Cole Caulfield, Mr. Saturday Night, was completely neutralized. And when Caulfield's neutralized, the top line can't just become quiet. It has to find a different way to impact the game. Win a matchup, draw a penalty, create a rebound, force a defensive zone shift, make the Sabres' top players defend. But too often tonight, that line was chasing the game. Way too often, the Sabres were the group dictating where the puck went. And too often, the Canadiens' most dangerous line looked like they were fighting the game instead of trying to control it. That start with puck management and Juraj Slafkovsky has to be better. There's no soft way to put this for him, okay? His puck management was not nearly good enough in this hockey game. He was the worst player for the Canadiens in this game. When Buffalo's, well, at least from the offensive side, I should say. When Buffalo's pressure comes at you with that much size and speed, every touch matters. Your decisions all matter. And when you try to force plays through bodies, the Sabres are going to take it and go the other way. If you hold onto the puck for that one extra second too long, the entire passing lane closes. And if you try a hopeful play from the blue line, the whole structure gets stretched out. Slafkovsky has all the tools to punish Buffalo. He's got the size, he's got the reach, and he's got the skill. But in Game 7, his game has to become simpler because it can't be spectacular. That's the adjustment point. Put the puck behind the Buffalo defense. Arrive there with force. Protect below the goal line. Force the Sabres to defend in their own zone and along their own boards. Don't feed their transition. Don't forecheck. I should say don't give their forecheck extra life. Don't turn their skill into risk with the wrong areas on the ice or in the wrong areas on the ice. For Caulfield, his correction is movement. He can't wait for clean air. Buffalo's not going to give him any of that. He has to hunt soft spots earlier, shoot through traffic, create off motion, and become difficult to track below the circles. And Suzuki has to drag line into the fight with details, winning more faceoffs, wall plays, low support, defensive sticks. That line doesn't need a highlight every single shift. It needs real control. Because if the Canadiens' top line gets controlled in Game 7, that becomes a roadmap to victory for Buffalo. Take away Caulfield, pressure Slafkovsky, forced rush decisions, make Suzuki defend. That's the trap. And the Canadiens know that. So the response has to be clear. Simplify the first play, win the second, then attack. That line is way too talented to be this freaking quiet. The belief is there, but Game 7 can't be about a line's reputation. It has to become about their execution. Now, Alexandre Carrier. This was a really tough game for him. And again, I buried him before the season, but this time it's not about burying him. It's about identifying the pressure point that the Sabres are using. They look like they were attacking his side of the ice with purpose, especially on the Canadiens' penalty kill. They found space there. They found time. And they exposed the lack of puck pressure. And when you give the Buffalo power play time to set its feet, they go 4 for 6 in a hockey game. And you're asking for trouble. At times, Carrier looked overwhelmed by the size and speed that was coming at him. And that can happen in playoff hockey. But it's not a character failure. It's a matchup problem. And the matchup problems have to be solved quickly. The correction's not overly complicated either. Pressure the puck carrier a little bit earlier. Tighten the gaps. Better stick positioning. And more support from the low forward. If Carrier is going to be attacked on that side, the Canadiens can't leave him isolated. The penalty kill has to move as a unit. Pressure can't be one guy guessing. It has to be 4 players playing connected. When the puck goes to Carrier's side, the nearest forward has to arrive with him. The weak side defenseman has to protect the seam. The slot has to be tied up. The goalie has to see the first shot. That's how you turn an exposed side into a trap for the Sabres. That's exactly how the Canadiens scored their shorthanded goal, but it wasn't happening often enough. And right now, the Sabres see that side as a place to breathe. In Game 7, the Canadiens are going to have to turn it into a place where the play goes to die. That has to be the adjustment. And for Carrier, personally, the answer is to be more assertive. Don't wait. Don't back in. Don't give the puck carrier 3 options or 4. Take one option away right away. Force the play before the Sabres are comfortable. And when Carrier is active, when he closes fast and supports the puck harder, he can help this team. But when he's passive, Buffalo's speed makes everything look so much worse. This is the kind of game where a defenseman can either carry it with him or use it. Carrier needs him to use it. Learn the pressure point. Clean up the reads a little bit. Win the first battle in Game 7 because Buffalo is going to test it again. They would be foolish not to. Now, we have to talk about Jakub Dobes, and this is where the conversation has to be fair, okay? Dobes got bombarded again, okay? Shots on goal in this hockey game were 36-22 in favor of the Sabres. He allowed 6 goals against. The shot volume, the pressure, and the quality of the chances, Montreal didn't exactly put him in a rocking chair tonight. He was under siege for long stretches, but there were also goals where he did need to be better. Both things can be true of your goaltender. You can defend your goalie from chaos in front of him and still expect a save or 2 in a key moment, especially on Quinn's first power play goal of the hockey game. That's the one he would have wanted back. The same holds true for the Benson goal that went between his legs. In a closeout game like this, those saves are what holds the building together. They're the saves that stop the bleeding before it turns into a flood. We got those from Dobes in Game 5. They didn't come in Game 6. And then once Jack Quinn scored his second of the game on the power play in the third period, that was it. Dobes was pulled, and honestly, by that point, it felt like the game had already told you what it was. The goalie wasn't the problem in this hockey game, but it also wasn't part of the solution. The question now becomes in Game 7, and that's where Montreal has to be calm. They have to have a much stronger response. The team has to play Game 7 in order to protect Dobes' strengths. Clearer sight lines, boxing out, no free second chances, no second ice seam passes through the heart of the penalty kill, no defensive zone shifts that last forever. You can't ask him to be the entire structure, but you can ask him to be the final layer. That's the correction. And Dobes has a correction too in this. Reset your feet, track through traffic, own the next shot. Don't carry Game 6 into Game 7. Goalies, every day, they have short memories, right? Especially young goalies. And that's especially important because the Sabres are going to try to shoot from everywhere now. They're going to test them early. They're going to crash the net. They're going to try to make the first 5 minutes feel like tonight all over again. And that's where Dobes and the Canadiens have to show much more maturity. Make the first save, clear the rebound, kill the noise, and then play the game. Dobes has already helped the Canadiens get to this point. What bad night doesn't erase that? But Game 7 will absolutely demand his sharpest version. And it will demand a much better team in front of him. That goes without saying. Tonight wasn't just a bad score. It exposed a pattern. And patterns are what decide playoff series when the talent gap is too tight. The pattern shows slow and uneven urgency. That's the real concern here. Not the 8-3 score by itself. Blowouts happen. Playoff games can spiral. But when the same warning shows up twice in a row, like it did in both Game 5 and Game 6, you can't just shrug it off. For the second straight game, Montreal was not ready to handle Buffalo's opening push. That has to be different. Buffalo's formula is obvious now. Start fast, forecheck violently, make the Canadiens' defense turn, put pucks in uncomfortable areas, attack the penalty kill, crowd Dobes, and force the Canadiens' top line into low percentage puck decisions. That's the script. That's what Buffalo's doing. And now the Canadiens have to take the time to open the script up and read it. Because in Game 7, they're going to have to rewrite the ending. The Canadiens can't enter Game 7 hoping they survive the first push. They're the ones that are going to have to deliver it. That means the opening 5 minutes can't be cute. They can't be east-west, and they can't be risky at the blue lines. They have to be direct, pucks deep, bodies in, finishing body checks, forechecking hard, defense being active, third forward up high. Not allowing any odd man rushes, no lazy clears, no soft decisions. And emotionally, They have to stop playing like the series is supposed to come to them. It's not. Nobody hands you the second round, or the third round, I should say. You have to take it. That's the lesson that the Canadiens must learn from tonight. And honestly, maybe it's the kind of lesson a young team needs before Game 7. You would have thought they learned that in the first series, but it looks like they're trying to learn it a second time around. Not because losing 8-3 is acceptable. It certainly isn't. But because the message is now impossible to ignore. You can't cheat the start. You can't rely on finishing. You can't assume the Bell Center was going to carry you, especially not now that you're going to be on the road. And you can't assume that momentum from Game 5 will show up in your Game 6, because it didn't. Every game, every shift, every inch of ice have to be earned. That's playoff hockey. And the Canadiens still have all the tools to do it. They have the speed, the skill, and the depth. They have a power play that can hurt the opposition. And they have players who can rise in big moments. We've already seen it. But in Game 7, the details have to come before the drama. Habits have to come before the heroics. That's where this series can flip back. Not with some magic speech, not with some perfect highlight, but with a first period that says, we're here, we're ready, and we're not giving you this game. That's what we should have seen tonight. We have to see it in Game 7. So let's bring it all together. Tonight, the Canadiens got humbled. And that's the word. Humbled. They had a chance to end the series. They didn't. They had a chance to turn 3 goals and 3 shots into a knockout punch. That didn't happen. They had a chance to protect their goalie better. No chance that happened. They had a chance to push back against Buffalo's forecheck with urgency and structure. Not enough. And that has to change. All of it. Because here's the part that matters. It actually can. This isn't a team without answers. This is a team that got away from its answers. The answer is not panic. The answer is not booing them off the ice like the whole season just collapsed. The answer is not pretending everything is fine either. The answer is about accountability, starting on time, managing the puck, protecting the middle. Get Caulfield moving. Get Slavkovsky to play simpler. Carriatus, you need to get him support. And Dobes, you need to give him clear sight lines. And make Buffalo defend. And I got to say this about the fans at the Bell Center tonight. Yes, we absolutely need to talk about the late game boobers. Seriously? Come on. Just think about it for a minute. If this turns out to be the last Canadiens home game of the season, is that what you want all these players to remember? After a fantastic season, you want this young team that pushed this city into a second round Game 7 to think about that finish and the boos? A team that gave you playoff hockey and real, solid, entertaining playoff hockey? A team that battled, grew, took all kinds of punches and still has one more swing left? Listen, you're allowed to be angry and you can be disappointed and you can demand better. But don't confuse accountability with turning on the entire group. The Bell Center always needs to be a weapon for the Canadiens, not something that they have to survive. And if Game 6 was the last home game, then the send-off should have been belief. But now they have to go on the road and win one. And belief matters. Did the Boo Birds give the Canadiens enough belief? This team has earned criticism tonight. That goes without saying. But they've also earned one last push. So now we're going into Game 7. No looking ahead, no next opponent, no conference final talk, no scoreboard watching, no fantasy booking the next round. One game, one opponent, one job. The key thing is to watch the first 10 minutes of this game. And that's going to be the series right now. Not because the game will automatically be won there, but because the Canadiens have to prove immediately that Game 5 and 6 will not follow them to Buffalo again. They need the first clean exit. They need the forecheck hard. They need the first controlled shift from the Suzuki line. They need the strong saves from Dobes. They need the penalty kill to play with a lot more pressure. And they need the first sign that they're not waiting for the game to settle down. They need to take control of the game for themselves. Game 7 is not about being perfect. Playoff hockey is not about being perfect, but it's about being ready. That's the challenge for Montreal. You know the Sabres are going to come with everything. You know that after these last 2 games, they've got the Canadiens thinking some really evil thoughts. They just dropped 8 on the Habs. They've got belief. Their building's going to believe. The forecheck will be flying. The power play, it's on the rise and hunting. So the Canadiens have to simplify the game early and then grow into their skill. Don't feed the Buffalo Sabres monster. Don't give them their transition candy. Don't turn puck over at the lines, whether it's your own blue line or theirs. Make them go 200 feet. Make them defend below the dots. Make Luukkonen work. And then, when the chance comes, finish. Now, the Canadiens still can win Game 7, but they can't win the version of Game 7 where they spend the first period trying to wake up. They need to be awake after the anthem ends. So here's the big question tonight, and I want real answers. Not panic, not empty rage, not blind optimism, but real answers. And I don't want Buffalo Sabres fans coming into the comments and laying down a whole, oh, the Canadiens are finished, the series is over. You know damn well it's not. But what's the single biggest adjustment the Canadiens have to make for Game 7? Is it the start? Is it the top line? Slafkovsky's puck management? The penalty kill? Is it the way they handle Buffalo's forecheck? Put that in the comments, because Game 7 isn't about who has the better storyline. It's about who's going to make the better correction. Buffalo made theirs tonight. Now the Canadiens have to make theirs. And let me be very clear. This series is not over for either team. The Canadiens took a punch. A big, bad, ugly one. A very loud one. And the response is still available. One game, one reset, one chance to take a brutal lesson into a defining win. That's the opportunity. That's playoff hockey. So no looking ahead, no feeling sorry for themselves, and no waiting for something else to fix it. Game 7 is the test for the Canadiens. And they have to still have enough to pass it. Guys, make sure you like this video. Subscribe to PuckTalk Montreal if you haven't done it already. And tell me in the comments, what has to change first for the Canadiens to win Game 7? I'll see you tomorrow for the Game 7 preview. And as always, keep your skates down, stick on the ice, go Habs go.